All right. Hi, it's Lorelai with your Pet Battle Minute again. And
No way,
Patch.
Lorelai
Oh
messed
yeah.
up.
Well, no, I was.
I thought that was dramatic
I had a
effect
guild
there.
member
Yeah.
ask me a question, and then I didn't. So I had my screen down and I couldn't see it. And then I made my uh, Google Doc so small I couldn't read it. So I'm like, oh my god. Okay.
I got my epic swag on. I'm the boss right now. The coolest tag you'll ever see in town. Look at my helmet and look at my big blue dress. I'll take my shield off. It don't go with this mug. I might get one shot, but all the good is I drop. Cause you know, sweetheart, it's kinda hard to look this hot.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Lionspridetavern podcast number 53. Tonight, we have a special guest. We have the better half of one half of the Goblin Goldcast. So that's like 25%. Welcome, Mrs. Mack.
Thank you.
And we find out how many wipes does it take to get to the center of Jaeden's Tootsie Pop. This raid will never know. But before all that, let's start off with introductions. I'm your host, Fafford. I play a Dwarven Beastmaster Hunter in the awesome game World of Warcraft. Next up, we have JobUi
Hi, I'm JobUi. I play a Worgen Frost Mage.
and Lorelai.
Hi, it's Lorelai, your Night Elf Fury Warrior.
Epistle
Hello, I'm Epistle. I play a Draenei Protection Paladin.
and Tapachino is not here. We think she's riding her bike again, but we're not positive. But we do have our special guest, Mrs. Mack.
Hi, I'm Mac's wife, and I play a Night Elf Balanced Druid.
Awesome. So welcome, and we're going to start off with you, Mrs. Mack, with a little personal background.
You lied.
Yeah? Oh no.
So how long have you
He
played WoW?
exaggerated.
Yeah, right?
How-
Yeah.
How
long
long
have
have
you
I
played?
played WoW?
Yep, since what expansion?
I came in at Burning Crusades. Burning Crusades had just come out.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, a lot of people came in during Burning Crusades, I find.
Yeah, I did. I started leveling a tune around that time, too.
Yep, me too. About the middle of it.
See, I mean, when I first saw it, I was vanilla all the way. I saw it on the shelf and I was like, World of Warcraft? I don't know what it is, but I want it. How
Oh,
about
no.
you, JobUi?
Yeah, I was vanilla. I was a vanilla player. I came from EverQuest though. I had been playing EverQuest prior to that, I think, and then when World of Warcraft came out, I was like, oh, that's so much cooler. I'm gonna go do that. So then I moved to World of Warcraft.
Now, what's the other one? Guild Wars? Is that was the other one that's giving them a run for their money?
There was what is it? Was it the there was another game that was out around that same time. Was it Neverwinter Nights or something? Or...
Oh, I loved that. But that was just like a mostly single player. I
No,
think.
Yeah.
Then maybe that's not the one I'm thinking of. There was another multiplayer. Maybe it seems like it had something to do. Boy, I wish I could remember what that.
Whoops,
It
I'm
wasn't-
sorry.
Oh,
No, it's
yeah,
okay.
Ultima?
That wasn't it.
Ultima Online?
No, that wasn't it. There was another one, and a bunch of people like moved over to that just before World of Warcraft because they were like back and forth. Man, I'm gonna have to look it up.
I'm thinking that was Guild Wars because I had a couple of friends of mine that were going to go to Warcraft, but then they got into Guild Wars, and they're like, "Oh, the characters look so much cooler in Guild Wars compared to Warcraft."
No, it wasn't that. There was another one that that played something about the cold or snow or something. I can't. I'll look it up and I'll get back to you in a minute about what
All right,
that
yep,
was.
no problem. We'll go on to question number 2. Mrs. Mack, how did you come to find this raid group?
Oh, that's an easy answer. That was through Mac. He was telling me about how, yeah, this guild, Lionspridetavern, asked Dex and I to come and raid with them, and Dex is still trying to level his tune. And honey, maybe I might be able to get you in one night. Here I am.
That's
Yay.
awesome.
And
Yeah.
you're welcome.
And we still don't have Dex in. Now, last podcast I heard he was
Yeah.
at 105.
Yeah,
He's
I
he's
think
got
donkeys might fly.
yeah.
Or the next expansion will come out.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he said he only plays the Alliance character as far as until the nausea hits, and then he stops playing him.
Yeah. Now, I will let you in on a little secret. He started out as Alliance.
Ah,
Oh no.
oh, the secret. This
he's
is why
gotten.
this is why we wanted Mrs. Mack here tonight for
Plot
all
Yeah,
the
thickens.
all the
secrets.
secrets.
So, what's your favorite mount, pet, or toy box item, and why?
I think my favorite mount is this is so corny. The Traveler's Tundra Mammoth. It took me until like 6 months ago to have enough gold to go buy one of those things. Maybe it was a little bit more than 6 months. I never really had enough gold on any of my tunes to get it. And I never really got into the serious gold making like Max and Deck, and I probably will never get into that. So when I realized that I had enough gold to go buy this mammoth and I wouldn't have to find a repair person ever again, oh my gosh, I thought it was just the be all end all.
So I'm sensing another secret story here. How come Mac never gave you the gold to buy it?
Well, he did give me one of those mechanical goblin thingies. Sky golem, that's what they're
Sky
called.
golems. Yep.
Yeah, he gave me one of those. He's offered to give me gold before, and it's just we never play the same time. Well, I shouldn't say never. It's you have your game, I have my game. Oh, you want to help me? Gee, thanks. Okay, let's go. But yeah, he never offered to give me the gold.
Oh. Well, when
Yeah.
we get him on here, we'll ask him what his version of that is.
hmm
So, beyond being Mrs. Mac, is there a story behind your name?
My tunes names are either combinations of my children's names or my grandchildren's name or my first and middle name, and then Mac and Beck started doing this goldcast, podcast, and then I became known as Mac's wife. And what kind of trouble is Mac's wife or Mrs. Mac gonna get into this week with the wood chipper, the Cuisinart, or whatever? And so now I have several tunes with variations of Mac's wife.
So I heard you have a pretty good baseball bat and frying pan collection, though.
Oh, I do. I have a wonderful baseball and frying pan collection. He is most feared of the cast iron.
Ooh.
If he sees
As
the
he
cast
should be.
iron, yeah, exactly. It's not just for camping anymore.
No, it's not.
But is it a Wagner?
Nice.
No, it's not Wagner. Lodge.
I was gonna say,
Lodge is a
just-
great
just-
brand. Yeah.
Yeah. the
just
best.
look on Mac's forehead.
Yes.
Just
Except
hold him
it's
here, yeah.
backwards.
Hey, hold a mirror. No, all of my cast iron is Lodge.
I have Lodge and Wagner, but not much else. Wagner's like an old. They don't make it anymore. It's an old school brand.
Yep.
Yeah, no, mine is, yeah.
Good quality, though.
By the
Oh,
way,
very good quality.
I found that name. It was Dark
Okay.
Ages of Camelot, and it was a game. Yeah, it came out and it was mostly like PvP oriented, and it like sucked a whole bunch of like players from EverQuest around that time.
I've
And,
never heard of that one.
Yeah, Dark Ages of Camelot. It was really popular for a little while. It sucked a lot of EverQuest players away. But then it, I think it just kind of faded into the annals of history.
Well, I'm sure the gaming companies went, this is a great idea, until they realized, holy crap, do we realize how much technology we have to have these servers into play and the bandwidth and to get,
Right.
10,000 people to play at one time? I know Blizzard's learned their lesson.
Oh, yeah, how many lakes did they need to cool the servers for WoW?
Well, welcome, Mrs.
I-
Mack. We appreciate you coming to the podcast.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we're looking forward to hearing more stories.
I have a million of them.
All right, so we're going to start off with our Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop. Jobui, you want to kind of recap how we did on the raid this weekend?
All right, so Friday night, we made the decision we were going to skip to Maiden and take down Maiden, Fallen Avatar, and move on to kill Jaeden, but you have to go through Gorath first. So we took out Gorath, that was no problem. We got to Maiden, and mechanics were sloppy, and then it got cleaned up. Once the mechanics got cleaned up, we got through Maiden, got through Fallen Avatar in one pull, went on to kill Jaeden, and we wiped it up on Kill Jaeden for the rest of Friday night. Then we came back on Saturday, and we wiped it up on Kill Jaeden all night on Saturday.
2 hours of wiping.
Yeah.
Over and over.
Yeah,
But-
now we did get further with the large group that we had, because we had a 30-man group for most of it. It did drop down to 29-man group at one point, and then back up to a 30-man group. But we did get further. I mean, we got all the way to Berserk basically going off.
Yep.
So we got through the mechanics were getting done for the most part. There was some mechanics missed here or there and mistakes made in that, but I mean, they were being done well enough that we were seeing the end of the raid or the end of the fight on a lot of those polls. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And there was, math issues that was preventing us from getting through the very end.
Yeah, I think we had 1 or 2 wipes to get to the center. Because we got them down to 2%, I think 1% at one time.
Yeah, it was pretty close.
Yeah. But like you said, at those times, we hit the enrage timer. So, and I do know that, and I would admit it, there was one time I was holding back on the battle reses, and I probably shouldn't have. If I would have popped the battle reses a little sooner, thrown up a little more DPS, we might have hit that 1%. I don't know. But
Maybe, yep.
maybe, yeah.
We were
But-
still quite a few. I mean, like 1% doesn't sound like a lot, but that's still quite a bit of boss health, really.
Oh yeah, it was like 250 million or something.
1.5 billion health, I think, or something like that.
Oh, is that what it was? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it is. I mean, we're getting pretty close, is what that says. But that means we just have to clean up a lot of other mechanics in order to be able to get further. So we have to be able to go into the dark phase and back out again without losing as many people as we had. That's going to make a big difference.
Well,
Yeah.
that isn't the only thing, though. It's not just the mechanics getting cleaned up, though. I mean, because part of it is we have to get our DPS numbers up as a group, as a whole. Because if we get the DPS numbers up, then we're not sitting in that second phase for as long, and that's where we're starting to lose people. As people are dying due to us being in that second phase for an extended period of time, and it's also where we're eating up the clock as we, head towards the end, and why we're hitting that enrage timer. We just need that extra DPS, which includes, people staying up. But, if we have better DPS, then we'll get through that second phase where the mechanics are extra tough, a little faster, less people will die, we'll have more people to get into the third phase, and not hit that enrage timer.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, let's just talk a little bit about our kill Jaeden, because I'm not even going to go anywhere near Maidens of Vigilance. Or no. Was it Maidens that we kept having problems with? Yeah, because Fallen
Maiden.
Avatars. Yeah. Fallen
We-
Avatar we didn't do too bad.
No,
I
we
think it was-
one-shotted Fallen
You
Avatar.
had that
Yeah.
one down.
Yeah.
Yeah, we figured that one out.
Yeah, Maidens, I tell you, it's just that it's just, we keep saying it, these last 3 bosses, everybody has to be involved in the special mechanics. You can't just have a group, like it's always been. So,
Yep.
and that's a tough mechanic to overcome.
Yeah,
it
it's
only takes
everybody or
one.
nobody, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So, Mrs. Mack, had you been through up till Kid Jaeden?
We had gotten to kill Jaden once, in one of the raids that I participated in, and we only got 1 or 2 pulls, and then I've either been working or camping or being super wonder grandma. So yeah, this was my first time.
Okay, all right. So, what did you find from kind of a newer player aspect of the last 3 fights? Maidens of Vigilance, where it's the green and the white, or Fallen Avatar, or Kill Jaeden. What did you find that's the hardest for an average player to overcome?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that I'm an average player. I appreciate that because I don't see that. The I, I think right now, for me, the hardest part to overcome is that dark spot, the darkness with Kill Jaden. I finally kind of have a good understanding of the white and the green, and if you get the bomb on you, jump in the center. I learned that, Jobui. And then the Fallen Avatar, that one, yeah, I learned, I've gotten better with that. The darkness in Kil'jaeden is the death of me, but I'm starting to get the idea, so maybe I might be able to be of a little more help next time.
Sure, yeah. Well, we stayed online a little bit after our Saturday's live stream, and there was, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 of us that were talking about it. And I think we need to go, and we'll have Joe Bowie do it on the next raid, because I won't be there, but maybe go a little bit more into depth detail about what happens in the darkness, because I don't think a lot of people understand that once you find, not Kill Jaden, but what's his name?
Illidan.
Illidan.
Yeah.
You have to go step in his green stuff to get
Yeah.
to get the site. And I'm thinking, because after we were talking about it, after the raid was over, a couple of people you could just hear it in their voice, like, oh, you got to step in that, and that gives you the site. So, I know it's been, this is the first time we got him down. It was kind of a on the fly because we never really talked about what was on past the darkness. But the darkness, I agree with Mrs. Mack, is where we're losing quite a few people. So maybe next raid we can put a little more effort, a little more time into talking about what goes on there. Because up until that point, I think we're getting really good. We only lose maybe a couple of people. I'd have to go back and look at the numbers again, but
Yeah,
the
one or two
darkness,
at most.
yeah, the darkness seems to be kicking our butt.
Yeah, the darkness is it's kind of a tough mechanic, especially one of the things about the darkness phase that can be a real kicker is if we have it in Armageddon right before the darkness phase comes up, and then you go right into the darkness phase while people still have that debuff. They're taking massive amounts of damage and they can't be healed. So not until they find Illidan anyway. So if they go into that dark phase while they have that debuff on them, it can be really rough. And if your health is low going into that, again, you're in a tight spot because you've got to do it quickly. It's kind of a tricky phase to transition into.
Yeah, that's one of the things we talked about after the raid, because I burned my personal cooldown and a Hellstone, which is 30% of my health, and then another 25%, and it still wasn't enough to keep me up, because I'd done the Armageddon right before that. That was our very last pull. The Armageddon came up, and then we went right into darkness. It was a total. We probably shouldn't have pushed him past that into the next phase. We should have held off, but
It's hard to time that at that point, but I had the same thing happen where I had just stepped into an Armageddon and soaked one of the smaller pools, and I had the debuff right before we went in there, and so I ended up what I did was I just sat in the middle, and I popped my personal shield, and then I popped the warlock cookie, and then I hit my ice block, and then I just sat there in my ice block, waiting to see where when the hunter was going to start pinging the map, showing me where he
Damn
was.
mages, I tell you.
And as soon as I saw where it was, I came out of my ice block, pointed straight at it, and blinked twice across the room and was standing next to him. So I managed to save myself, but
You got to
Yeah.
do what you got to do sometimes.
Yeah, I'm usually throwing up bandages right before the darkness.
So, since you piped up there, Lorelei, so you had a really good suggestion for one of our players because he was having a real tough time with it, and it was really frustrating him. But I think we got him to understand what's going on. But Lorelei, why don't you tell us what you told him?
Oh, he was having problems finding where Illidan was, and even though Illidan can show up anywhere on the edge of the map, he tends to stay along the back wall. But sometimes he can inch up one of the side walls. So I said, what happens is if you notice, if you pulled your screen back enough, while it's still light, just before the darkness is going to hit, those ghostly forms will pop up and you can see them. So at that point, I told him, as soon as you see them come up, turn around and face the back. And I usually know that it's coming, so I turn around and I start running to the middle of the back wall. And that way, I've got less distance to run from side to side to find him. So he's going to try that.
Yeah, because one of the suggestions we had from one of our players that is in another raid group was to put markers in the four corners of the platform. But the problem is you can't see those markers when the darkness hits.
right.
So
There is another thing too that I have heard. I haven't seen it myself yet, haven't spotted it myself, but from what I understand, just before the darkness is cast, Illidan will warp himself into the scene, and if you're watching very closely and you're looking in the right direction, apparently you can see his wings in the spot where he shows up at. And so if you can spot where his wings show up just as the room is turning dark, you can just run over to that spot, and that's where he'll be. But I haven't
looking
spotted that
for it
yet.
this last time out. I wasn't able to see it. I had a good moment to look around. I wasn't able to see it. Doesn't mean it's not true. I just haven't been able to see it yet either.
Right. I mean, I've seen video of it. I've seen video of that occurring, but I haven't seen it personally yet.
well, and one of the other things he mentioned was that he has a different mini map. He doesn't use the Blizzard mini map. He uses a different one. So he's got a square, but he wasn't seeing the ping marker when it was going off. So it might be a good suggestion if you guys are out there and you're doing Kill Jaeden and you're having a tough time with the darkness, is to turn that add-on off and just go back to the Blizzard one. Because I saw the ping every single time on the mini map. I never did find him to where I could ping the map. One of the other hunters always did, but not everybody knows, but the hunters can turn on Detect Humanoid and they can see Kill Jaeden on the mini-map. It takes a little bit to scan over all the dots because everybody's humanoid, so everybody's dots there. But
yeah, I use a square map as well, but I'm using the add-on Sexy Map, and then I've got it turned like there's no border. It's just a plain square map, so all that, and I can see the pings on that one at least. And there was another setting that I changed in there too. Another player alerted me to. In there, you can change how long it goes before it auto zooms back out on the map. And I set that to like 30 seconds. So on top of, as soon as it goes dark, one of the things I would do is I'd zoom in the map until the platform that we're on completely fills my mini map. And that way, when I do see the ping, it's more obvious as to where it is on the platform.
Yeah, and I think he might have been also having problems seeing it because everybody was standing over there. So I'm going to also remind him that, if you see a whole bunch of the little dots over in one
Run
corner,
towards
just
them.
head that way.
Yeah.
Go to the dots.
Be a sheep. Follow the herd.
Go with the group. Yeah, always a benefit.
So, Mrs. Mack, how did you find the darkness? Or find Illidan in the darkness? Did you just follow everybody, or?
No, I found Illidan one time by sheer luck.
Very cool. You were standing there and he showed up?
I started running around. I had no idea where I was going, what I was doing, but I figured, well, I'm gonna die anyway, so let's try. And I found him, and then I'd step out and I'd step back in, and I hadn't put all the pieces together, so hopefully I'll be able to be there on Friday night, and now that a lot more pieces make sense, I might actually be more help than a hindrance.
Sure. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. He also makes a little, as you get close to him, there's also this little swiping thing that you see in the air so that you know you're getting close to him. But sometimes that's kind of hard to see.
Well, I've also seen combat. So if one of our players is already in combat with one of the ads that spawns, I can see little flashes, so I know there's a combat, and therefore Illidan is probably within a few steps of that.
Yeah, there's all kind of little things you can try to help.
Yeah, as I know, Tap, one of her things is to get everybody there, and then use the bigger healing cooldowns. And I was talking with her a little bit about that because, she was like, that way we can all get healed up, but yet we can't wait
right
for everybody
now
to get there.
That's one thing I was going to ask her. If she gets there, can she just put down one of the big healing circles so that as people run in, they can get healed and she doesn't have to sit there and do a heal?
Yeah.
Yeah, she totally could, but that healing circle, I think, only affects 5 people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
but it might be 5 people that, if you ran in, you got healing, you run back out, it'll give you another 5. I'm not sure about that, but I have a druid, but boy, I haven't. Well, Epistle, you had a druid healer.
Yeah. So I'm actually thinking there's 2 things. One is one of the spells is Wild Growth, and that's an AoE heal that will only do 5. And that's got a sort of a slow cooldown. But yeah, if you're talking about the little, they keep changing the name of it, the little green circle on the floor.
Yeah.
My understanding is, it used to be, there's a mushroom in the middle. It used to be, and I think it still is, anyone who's in it can get the ticking healing.
Oh, okay.
All right, yeah, and here, just to be pretty specific, so we know exactly what we're talking about here. With the Deceiver's Veil, which is the debuff that goes on to all the players at the beginning of the darkness intermission phase, what it does is it restricts your ability to target any friendly player or enemy that's more than 8 yards away, period, and it causes all spells and abilities to miss, and it reduces healing done by 100%. Okay, so that's what that does, and that just stays on you until you also get choking shadows, by the way, which is damage
a ticking,
damage. It's a ticking damage. All right, so that's what gets on you. But then when you get next to Illidan, you get Illidan's Sightless Gaze, and that's when you run into the green patch around Illidan. And what that does is it grants you sightless vision, which allows you to see and hit enemies and other players within 40 yards radius, and you can heal people and whatnot. But you also take a ticking damage over time. That's why it's considered a debuff, is because it does damage you, but it also removes any of the effects. It reduces the healing reduction and hit chance effects of Deceiver's Veil. So it's essentially what it does is it just makes it so you can target and heal. You can target and damage things, and you can heal things if you get that, and it lasts for 20 seconds. It does not stack, so you can just hang out next to Illidan if the little shadow dudes are coming to Illidan, if they're being brought in there. But if they're not, you kind of have to go out and search for them, but keep your bearing so you know where to go back to.
Because it's like run out and back.
Yeah, like go out until you can spot one of them, target it, start hitting it, and then go back to Illidan and recharge and reach.
Okay, so to me, that brings up two questions. One, does Illidan stay there for the entire darkness phase?
Yeah,
Yes.
he doesn't move.
He doesn't move. So once we find him, we're done.
Yep.
Yeah, well, yeah, as long as you don't get lost in the darkness.
Yeah,
you
it
know,
becomes
like-
your new
yeah.
home base.
But yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And what I
then-
do personally, like if I find it, once I find Illidan and I get his sightless gaze buff, debuff, whatever, then I don't see any of the targets out there. I will pick a direction and then I will run in a straight line out in that direction looking for any targets. And as soon as I spot one, I'll target it, hit it, and then I will turn straight around back the way I came and go right back to Illidan to make sure that I've recharged my Illidan sightless gaze debuff because I want to be able to be healed and stuff.
And my guess is because you have really, I know, Jabu, you have really good spatial awareness. You know where you are on the map, and you know directionally where you're likely to go. You're
Mhm.
probably glancing at the map too, so that in your own mind you've sort of gone, here's where Illidan is. So if I was
Yeah.
to get disoriented, you know which corner to go back to.
More or less, yeah. I mean, I it's written in my brain already because I've looked at the mini map and saw where the hunters are and where the other players are, and I've gone to that corner. So I know that's where it's going to be. And then from there, it's just straight lines out, straight lines back, straight lines out, straight lines back. I don't try and turn and go around because I just get disoriented and lost probably.
Yeah, while looking at the debuff too, right? So you're kind of seeing when, I got 10 seconds, I got 5 seconds. Okay, time to run back or blink back to get the debuff again.
More or less, I don't even really try to pay too much attention to how much time is left on it. I just kind of mentally gauge about 20 seconds since the last time I left him, but I don't wait for that 20 seconds to come near an end. Like I'll go out there and if I see one target, I'll hit it until it goes down. If I see a second one, like right there, I might hit it a few times or something. And then I turn around and go back because I don't even want to mess around with dying. So I just head back probably every 10 seconds or so to recharge it.
We don't want people going out too far either because these things, I don't know what their range is because it bugs me as a tank because you want to tank them, but they don't really seem to have any kind of threat table. So I can taunt all I want and throw a shield and try to interrupt them. None of that's working. So if someone runs out too far and there is a range on these, that would make it more difficult for us. So being in one spot pulls those mobs towards us, I think.
I think those dudes teleport, don't they?
Yeah, they will, but I don't. That's what I'm wondering. If someone's running halfway across the map away from Illidan, they could get themselves into some real trouble because they could get targeted and no healing, no anything for you.
Well, I think that's where Durag and Unholy were both. They were what do they call that? Life gripping them.
Gripping. Gripping is great. That's one of those things I'm just so jealous of as a pally. But being able to pull those mobs over is great because then you can cleave and there's a bunch of them. That's brilliant when we can do it.
Yeah, because I noticed he's done that because every time I get over by Illidan, I just kind of stay there, and all of a sudden the blue guys show up because somebody's pulling them over that way.
I've also seen in video at least where a Death Knight has grabbed one of them, pulled him in singularly, and then he hit his other one that pulls in other mobs or whatever, and he pulled in like 5 others from around him, all into one clump, and they got AoE'd down in like a half a second. And I don't know if they were just in range or what, but he managed to like pull all the dudes. So it was that Malphysics grasp or something like that he can pull in like all enemies around onto the one he's got targeted. I'm probably saying the name of that ability wrong, but
well, only a Death Knight will say anything to you.
Yeah.
So, second question: the darkness debuff is a bigger ticking damage than Illidan's, correct?
I believe so. Illidan's does about 130,000 damage roughly. It probably varies based on. In normal it's 95,000. Is what it does. And let's see here, the Deceiver's Veil, which gives the choking shadows. That one is doing. Well, let's see here. I don't know how much ticking damage that does. Maybe that doesn't do ticking damage.
I think so because I die more often to the darkness than I do to Illidan's taking damage.
Yeah, I'm watching people go down over time, like the whole raid's health is going down. I think that's probably what's doing it.
Maybe there's another type of maybe it's just that we have that other damage going in, because like I'm looking at like the data info for that particular effect, and it doesn't show any actual damage in the list for that. What it shows is that the Choking Shadows does a massive healing of absorption percentage, which is like a normal, it's 20,000% healing absorption on the people, but it doesn't show any ticking damage associated with it, oddly.
I thought each individual one did damage, and so that's why we had less damage over time. But that might just be we're finding and getting into Illidan's field of influence, and therefore not dying as quickly.
Yeah, it's probably just the Deceiver's Veil that it does, like, it's probably just not in the data here showing what the damage is, but it's probably just a damage that's undocumented in the tooltips or in the spell info that I've got as to how much it does. But it's got to be from the Deceiver's Veil. So I couldn't give you a straight answer as to whether it's less or more, but ultimately it would be more because you can't be healed while you have the Deceiver's Veil versus, and nor can you target anything outside of 8 yards or attack it.
And maybe that's it. Maybe it's the fact that you can't get healed, and you're just, once you get to Illidan, you can get healed, and the healers are healing you, and it doesn't seem like the ticking damage is as bad. That could be it.
Yeah, because you can't target anything, you can't hit anything. Like it basically makes you useless until you can get to Illidan.
I wonder if that works for your pets as a hunter.
I would imagine so.
I wonder if hunter, they'd have to switch right in the middle of things, or maybe one hunter can look at for humanoids, and one could set up for whatever the shadow souls are, if they're undead or aberrations. I don't have maxed out either one of those, so
I'll have to look at that.
Because then what I'm looking up right now is to see how many of them do we get.
6.
6.
And they are in
aberration.
aberration.
Seem to be pretty close. Then there's usually 3 somewhere pretty close by.
Yeah, you are correct though that they're an aberration.
They are an aberration. Okay. Yeah, maybe because we've got plenty of hunters.
Yeah. So maybe they could, say, oh well, there's one over here to the left of him, and.
Yeah. Well, I think.
Or heck, if they see the marks on their map, they could just ping them.
Well, that might get confusing. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll have to kind of play with it. Because I think, seriously, after our talk after the raid, I think that's where our issues lie, is in the darkness. I just don't think enough people understand what's going on. I mean, you did a great job explaining up until that point, and then when we got him down, it just kind of, I don't know. Maybe not. But I think that's where we're losing it. The people are just kind of playing with the mechanics now, where if we tell them what it is, that might get us through.
It's possible. I also think that it's really I really think we need to get our numbers up a little bit to get through that second phase a little faster.
Oh yeah.
Because that's where I think we're losing a lot of time there. If we, because we have all those mechanics to deal with. And like I said, the faster we get through that section, the less of those mechanics we have to deal with overall before we go into that shadow phase, that shadow intermission, I guess. And that's why we hero there, is to try and get through it faster.
Right.
And so, but we need everybody to kind of be on point and really like pushing themselves really hard on getting the numbers up, especially in that part of the fight.
Well,
yeah, but another thing is we have to have health up as high as we can get it before we go into darkness. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how fast you try to get things done, because we're losing a lot of people also right at the end of that phase going into the 4th phase. And I think there were times when we could have gotten him down if we'd had at least half the raid up, because by the time we got to that last phase, we may have had 5 or 6 people up.
Yeah,
And I
Sure.
wonder if the timing on the big heals then need to be, because I saw 3 or 4
Yeah.
people who were like at a quarter health just as we're going into that stage. I'm wondering if we should make sure that big heals happen just before we go into darkness. If we haven't been vigilant on that, to make sure that's a crucial time. Otherwise, you know, you might have a few tricks up your sleeve, but if not, you're going to be toast pretty quickly.
Save
Uh,
your cooldowns, your health stones for just
Well-
before that phase kicks in.
Yeah.
Sure, and maybe a key there is that what we need to do is really make sure that the healing crew understands that they need to watch the boss's health as he approaches 40%, because it's 40% is when that is going to start every single time. So if they are watching, all right, we're at 42%, we're at 41%, we got to start topping people off and making sure they're staying that way just
Yeah.
before we go into that phase.
Top
that may
off,
be-
or they'll drop off.
Yeah,
Yep,
the
and
healer check right there, you know, at
and
40%.
with that, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I was gonna say, and with that comes what I think is probably the biggest problem at that part of the phase is when we get the bursting dread flames. I think that they're not being moved out far enough because people are stacked too tight, and there are times when we have to stack up during that fight, but as soon as we don't have to, everybody who doesn't have to be under the boss should be moving away so that if they get it, they don't have to run too far with them. But every time we went down and had a problem, there were at least 3 to 4 dread flames stacked on top of each other under the boss, and that just tears me. We can't take that because that's double and triple damage
Yeah, and that's
for
what's creating
people
the,
standing too close.
yeah, that's what's creating the crisis for the healers then, because they've got somebody who's so low and now they got no time to heal them, and yeah,
You
so
got-
the timing is critical in that.
Yeah, you got like 6 people that are
Yeah.
too low to get up, and that tears your whole melee part up.
I wonder if it would. I mean, like it's helped in the past. I wonder if maybe I should make sure I put together a week aura that we can hand out to people at bursting dread flame. You know
Well,
that.
yeah, it's
Ju-
not so much the weak aura; it's people need to start learning positioning.
Well, that
And
too. But
it's really got to be stack up, expand out. You know, there are times we have to do it with the focus dread flame, and that's fine. But then after that, you need to get out.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. But it is a little bit, especially if you're stacked up and you get the bursting on you. It can be a little bit hard to tell that it's on you. I mean, yeah, it's on your screen. DBM's going to put it on there, but there's a lot going on, so it can be a little bit difficult. Like I've noticed it, but it's not like super obvious to me. You know, like immediately super obvious that it's on me. Okay, yeah, now I got to move, and then
I
I
agree.
start getting out.
I agree with you, Jobu. I've done that a couple of times. It's like, oh, it's not on me. And then everybody's running. I'm like, why isn't that circle moving? Oh, shit, that's me. Because it was me, and I didn't realize it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not that I'm not paying attention or anything like that, but it's just there's so much going on the screen at that point, and especially like if I'm trying to watch timers, you know, to call out stuff or whatever, I might miss something there. So I mean, I might just make a weak aura for the bursting just to remind people, hey, it's on you, so there's no mistaking the fact that it's on them.
Yeah, and that's
yeah.
that's where spreading out is going to help because people
Sure.
can see that they've got it instead of nobody. If we're not unfocused and we're not doing the ads, nobody ranged and heals probably should not be stacked under the boss. They should move out past that middle circle ring
Yeah.
so that you can see if you've got it, and that way you can also get Armageddons easier too.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and less running involved. If you've just,
Yep.
it's a gentle spreading out, not a run to the corners. Just to take a few steps, space out a little bit. That's always good.
Yeah,
I have to admit that with every Armageddon that comes up, I have a tendency to head towards the middle regardless of where I'm at, just because I'm trying to make sure that I'm positioned to cover the big one in case whoever's supposed to do it isn't doing it.
Oh yeah, that person could probably do that. That's probably what they need to do. But everybody else, because we're actually ranged heavy, that's a lot of people standing in places they shouldn't be standing in.
Sure. I think a combination of what you're talking about and a little annoying weak aura to tell them that it's on them, I think would help clean that up quite a bit.
yeah.
And
Yep.
and here's the easy thing: you don't have to design that for tanks because we never get that on us.
Oh, nice.
Isn't that wonderful?
Thanks.
I love that.
You know, it always seems like when the fight gets tougher for everyone else, it gets easy on the tanks. It's just like, oh, we just got to stand here and hit his big toenail.
Well, while that is somewhat true, on this fight, it is all about active mitigation and defensive cooldowns and self
Yeah.
heals, all at a crucial time, and you have to have that down to you have to be perfect. 1 second early, and his stacking debuff will kill you on the last blow. So you can't do it too early, you can't do it too late. It's crazy town.
So there are two things in life that I've learned that you do not want to hear when you're at the dentist office and he goes, oops, or when Durag says, oops.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that always causes a scramble for me.
I heard it the other, it's like, oops. It's like, no. Tanks don't get to say oops.
Yeah, at which point I look up and go, okay, I've got a debuff on me. Wait, what debuff does he have? Is it better for me to take it now or to switch? Oh yeah, that was we lived through that one, but that was let's just say it's a good thing that my mic isn't auto on with voice, or the whole raid would have heard.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think that's enough. Mrs. Mack, you got anything to add for Kill Jaeden? You gonna think we're gonna get it down? Let's do that. Let's do predictions. What do you think this coming Friday, Saturday? You think we'll get her down?
Oh, I think we'll get Killed Jaden down. And honestly, listening to all of you talk put gave me a lot more insight because I have not been much of a raider. Before coming with you guys, there was a guild that I belonged to, and I think I still have one tune in it somewhere. And they were a big raiding guild. They're local here, but there were far too many elitists in there. And if you didn't have this, and this, um, it really, I got away from it. I really wanted to learn about it, and I got away from it because it just wasn't fun. This has been very different. I'm learning a lot, and I we got Kill Jaden down to 1%. I mean, 1%. I think we got it this next weekend.
All right, cool. JoeBuoy?
Well, I think it depends. I think if we get the numbers up, we'll get them. I don't think if I think if because we were doing the mechanics pretty well, I just think that it's just a numbers game now. If we can get those numbers up, we'll get them. But I don't know if that's going to happen. Hopefully, I'm hopeful, but I'm reserving my optimism.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Lorelai?
I hope you get him down Friday because I won't be there Saturday. So I'm gonna hope we do it on Friday.
All right, fair enough. Pistol?
Well, to throw another piece of the puzzle in the mix here, if I can mangle my metaphors, we're actually hoping to be out in the mountains this weekend, so that might change the dynamic yet again. However, that being said, I think the biggest factor is what happens outside of the raid for what's going to happen inside the raid. So if people are actually getting slightly better gear, so they take a little less damage and they can do a little more damage and they can do a little more healing, I think across the board that's going to make it a lot easier for us. Getting the artifact power just week to week, there's a slight upward tick that should help us tremendously. And I think I don't think it's just DPS. So when I'm thinking about the numbers, I would agree with JoeBuoy if we extend the numbers out to also mean, good mitigation, good healing, people minimizing the damage that they're taking. I think that's going to help us all tremendously. And so then, I think we should be able to do it.
So how's the Wi-Fi in the mountains then?
Particularly bad, actually.
Okay. So
I'd be dead before I knew it was dark phase.
By the way, I would like to clarify that when I'm talking about getting the numbers up, I'm not just talking about DPS. I'm also talking about heals and like just in general. When I say get the numbers up, I'm talking
gear
about
scores, get another
all of it.
concordance.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. Because I noticed my numbers went up. I got a concordance right before Friday's raid.
But you may have noticed pallies have been nerfed, the tanks, so now my numbers are going down. So sad.
I noticed you kept dying a lot more. Either that or you pissed all the healers off.
Well, that was at the beginning as opposed towards later on, because this is one of those things that the healers have to get used to the rhythm of healing. Dar gets up there first and he gets, hit hard and then really pounded and needs emergency heals to keep him going. And then we switch. And I take a little bit of damage now and again. And then in comes a debuff. I get pounded really hard. And so if they haven't got that rhythm, I'm the second tank up. And it's like, oh, he's gone down a little bit. No, during a certain phase, I'm going down and I'm gone if I don't get some emergency heals. So it's one of those things they have to kind of get that rhythm. And by the time we're at the end of the fight, they had that down. So, I've got Tarek and I were both talking about how we are blowing all of our cooldowns, all of our self heals, everything we got. So by the time we're out of the dark phase, we've got very little left. Some cooldowns come back up again, of course, but our big ones, our emergency ones, are still we're still digging deep into those ones. And again, that's making sure that the timing of the heals are there. We're not overhealing. We're getting right what we need when we need.
Okay, fair enough. We'll blame 2 hours of not being able to lick that Tootsie Pop on the healers since she's not here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that works. Works for me. Doesn't have to be the hunter's fault this time. All right. Well, I think I hear it. Let's cue the music for Lorelei's Pet Battle Minute.
Hi, it's Lorelei. Patch 7.3 has brought some changes in our pet battling world. Environeer Bert out in Nomergon has had his pets changed. Instead of flying pets, he now has 3 epic quality mechanical pets. Makes more sense, don't you think? The Sundarter hatchling has undergone a change as well. It's no longer a critter, but a dragonkin, so check your teams to see if you need to make any changes. The Eye of Inquisition can now be caged, so get farming and hit the auction house. There will be new pets from Hallows End and Wintervale. I'm not sure if I mentioned that earlier. Hunt through your stable and find Icky. If you did your quests in Spires of Iraq and Wad, you'll have him. He features strongly in many of the new pet battles in Argus. Partner him up with the Unborn Valkyr, and you're not going to have much trouble. Zufu's Pet Strategy Guide has suggested teams for all 3 zones. And if you want to look for specific pets and where to find them, be sure to check out warcraftpets.com. Now put on your safari hat and go battle some pets.
All right. Yeah, I have Icky and I never used him.
I haven't either, but man, he's tearing things up out there, so get him leveled up.
Very cool. And then there's
Getting Deeps with JobUI.
This week's Getting Deeps is about knowing your role. We start off with the obvious, dealing damage. This, of course, is your primary purpose in a raid encounter. One thing a lot of raiders forget is that you aren't just responsible for your own damage. You're also responsible for providing enough damage to cover the healers and also the tanks. Every person added to the raid increases the boss's health. That includes healers and tanks. All tank classes are going to do a fair amount of damage during the fight, so there isn't much to cover there. Healers, on the other hand, aren't generally expected to be dishing out much, if any, damage at all during the fight. That's where the DPS comes in. As a DPS, you should be able to cover your portion of the boss's health, plus some of the health that the healers add to the boss as well. The second purpose of a DPS player is to handle mechanics. This is not limited to just DPS players, but many of the mechanics in raid encounters must be handled by DPS, and it's essential that DPS become familiar with what those mechanics are and be ready to deal with them. In fact, in almost every situation, it is better if you switch your focus from dealing damage to handling the mechanics, since that can mean the difference between you or your raid surviving the fight at all. Once the mechanic is dealt with, get back on dealing the damage. And that's pretty much it for knowing your role as a DPS player. So make sure you're dealing your share of the damage, plus a little extra, and handle those mechanics while you're getting those deeps.
very cool. And what color dress does Epistle have on?
What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking in a dress? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking in a dress?
Everything is gold. This week's. and shiny new shoulders.
Shiny.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are pretty cool. I like your shoulders.
What? Thank you. This week's Come At Me a Tanking Minute, we're going to revisit rotations. Every time there's a new patch, certainly when there's an expansion, Blizzard tweaks, changes, adjusts, adapts things in such a way that you really need to be on top of or reviewing how it is as a tank that your rotation is going to be most effective. I've mentioned this before. Best place to go to would be going to something like Icy Veins, because they have a terrific breakdown of all kinds of useful information. And in particular, if you go to icyveins.com, check out their Warcraft section, go into the classes, and then go to the specific spec for your class. For example, for me, it's protection for Pally. They will break down in great detail or in very little detail how to best use your rotation. So there is the kind of simple, straightforward, single target or AoE tanking basic information. And so really you read that, review that, make sure you've got your keys set up so that you'll be able to hit those essential pieces as you go. Or if you want to go further, because you've already covered that, they're very good at giving you optimal rotations, and not just a kind of a cookie cutter push these buttons approach, but an awareness of what needs to be going on all the time, what things you add, when some talents would be most useful, and the kind of situations that they're most useful for. For example, as I was looking at it over again today, they break it down between defensive and offensive rotations. And while that doesn't seem like something you'll be doing very often, in the Kill Jaeden fight that we've been talking about, I switch into pure defensive mode. Everything I do is just pulling out every defensive trick in the book and avoiding any of the offensive ones, because damage at that point, I just need to survive. Offense doesn't matter. So knowing that really helps you to be able to optimize that rotation in those moments. It also underlines the very best ways to mitigate damage and different kinds of damage, whether it's magic, physical, or otherwise. Knowing that's going to be absolutely essential, especially if you're tanking a fight like Kill Jaeden, where there is predictable but massive damage. You have to know how to time everything. Just amazing. So one of the things I was reviewing today that's changed a little, but not much, was a little reminder that I need to keep consecration going as a pally all the time. Should never let it go down, because it's just too many benefits to having it up. So I'd encourage you, go to Icy Veins, take a look at their specifics for your particular spec of tank, give it some more reflection, look at your keys, make sure everything's set up just perfectly, and you might just survive a massive fight. And that's Come At Me a Tanking Minute.
All right. And
I need a healer. I'm holding out for a healer till the end of the run. They gotta be skilled and they gotta be calm and they gotta be second to none. I need a healer.
this is Tap. And what more do you need to know? You just push the buttons and you make everybody heal, and you don't let them get to 0 health.
How
What
do you
get
say
for-
trinket tap?
Tinket. Oh, and
Billy Bob Thornton's trinket?
Billy. I can't even do it. Billy Bob.
It's a hostess tweaket.
Yeah, it's a hostess tweaket. Billy Bob Thornton.
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 Billy
Yeah,
Bob Thornton. Sorry,
At the
Tap.
bar.
I
This is
know.
what
We just had to do
happens.
the northern thing.
Wow, that's both offensive and hilarious.
I love you, Tap. All right. It's WFN News, Warcraft Fafford News. The command center is next up at the Broken Shores. It has forces of order and well prepared. The weekly quest is another buy, I think, because it's like arena, blah, 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 blah. Whatever.
Again? Really?
Yeah, it's arena battle or something. I don't know.
I thought that one. I
I
thought the
did
next
too.
up.
Arena,
Next
well,
one-
the arena skirmish ends on Tuesday. Thank God.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
PvP.
Yeah,
What?
oh, maybe that's
PvP?
yeah.
Oh,
Whatever. It's another
all
buy.
kind of bad
Yeah.
stuff. It's just like, free
Yeah,
week.
I'm out.
WoW tokens, again, 150k. They are stagnant. It's actually like 149.9. So now the really cool part is the third part of the Shadows of Argus is live on Tuesday, so that should be the last part. So get out there and do the Shadows of Argus.
See, I thought next week is the World
It's World
Quest
Quest
bonuses.
next week. Yep.
Yeah.
World Quest on Tuesday.
Uh,
World Quest bonus.
World Quest boat. Yeah, but it's not the. I don't think it's the. Is it the 20 quests?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
It's to do a bunch of quests, gets like a ton of class hall resources.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. See, what do I know? I only
It's
read
better
the
than
news.
PvP, you know?
Oh yeah.
Huh.
Certainly is.
I'll have to fire my secretary for not putting that up there.
Anything is better than PvP.
Yes.
Oh yay.
What is this? It's Fafford's fake news. What?
Oh gosh.
I'm sorry, everyone. I apologize to everyone for that. I am horrible.
Well, guys, I think that's going to do it. I want to thank Charm for her beautiful music at every one of our minutes except JoBui's. That comes from BenSound over at bensound.com. I want to thank all of our listeners for listening. By the way, we were this week number 3
Oh wow.
for
Yeah.
podcasts.
Yay.
Oh, I'm sorry. No,
4.
we're number 4. We're number 4
Oh.
for podcasts for video games, and 936 overall out of all the Podomatic podcasts, which there's 42,000. So thanks, guys, for listening. Tell all your friends. We're on iTunes. We're on YouTube. You know, Donna Bell, our lovely digital artist, she does a picture every week, and I post it on the YouTube channel, and you can find all that through our Facebook channel, which is facebook.com/Lionspridetavern. Go there, like the page, look us up, leave us a message, talk to us, ask us questions, give us comments, or just say hi.
Send us chocolate.
Oh yeah.
Chocolate's good. I don't know.
Chocolate.
I don't know if you can send chocolate to Canada though.
Sure you can.
You got
There's got to be a way.
they got like their own type
There's
of chocolate.
always a way.
They don't have Smarties. What do they call? What are they called up there?
Oh no, we got Smarties, but we actually have real chocolate in it, unlike you guys.
Who put no in America? Smarties don't have chocolate.
Yeah,
That
there's
would
no
be
chocolate.
gross. They're like
That would be
little,
really
little
gross.
That's what I'm
bits of,
saying.
they're little sugar tablets that make
Yeah,
you
it's
think
like-
you're taking medicine when you were a kid.
You're actually not allowed to do that and call it chocolate in Canada.
It's
Yeah, we don't put
choc-
chocolate
no,
on
it's
Smarties.
not
That's
chocolate.
gross.
No, it's like they're like sweet tarts. They're not chocolate.
But except they're not tarty. They're sweet.
Yeah, they're more sweet. They're
I
not.
love
They don't.
Smarties. They're my favorite.
Yeah, I loved the little Smartie rolls. Smartie rolls are great.
And your Reese's, was it Reese's peanut butter cups aren't called Reese's?
Oh no, they are. We also have Reese's. What are they? Oh, I've forgotten. I don't eat them much. I like high-end chocolate, but they have the little
Oh.
bites.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
prefers his chocolate snooty.
Well,
Hey,
actually,
our Pennsylvania chocolate's the best there
there's-
is.
I like.
I like some snooty chocolate. Don't get me wrong.
I-
I'm just-
I do
like-
too.
I like locally crafted chocolatiers who create their own things, but chocolate snob.
So
That's
send us
okay.
some chocolate. Or don't.
It's not that cheap Halloween chocolate.
Yeah. Ooh.
That's bad.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for coming, and we'll
Thanks.
see y'all next week.
See you,
Good
folks.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
If you like this podcast, throw us a like and subscribe to our channel. And please, leave comments or questions below. Maybe we'll answer them on the air next podcast. We are hosted on Podomatic.com. Our website is Lionspridetavern.podomatic.com. Our podcast also airs on iTunes for Apple users, Google Play for Androids, and YouTube. Just search World of Warcraft Lions Pride Tavern podcast. See you next week, and thanks for listening.